Hello, everybody. Welcome into the cycle, part 2 of the week. I am Ryan Wormeli, joined as always by Mike Maher. If you missed Rounding the Bases, our first part of the cycle each and every week, go ahead and check that out on YouTube or audio or wherever you get your podcasts. We talk about a bunch of stuff, including Pete Rose. We talked about Jose Altuve. We talked about some guys we're taking the L on, and also went through our usual news and notes and injuries. So be sure to go watch and or listen to that episode. We're diving in now to our buys and sells. We'll start with buy lows, as we always do. Your favorite buy low is my two-start pitcher that we're hoping does well the rest of the week for my part of the competition. So for anybody who listened last week, they know who that is. But Mayor, for those who didn't listen last week, who you got?
I'm going with Shane Baez, and I wrote him up this week in the article, if I can pull it up, wherever it is. But I just feel like he has looked a lot better than what his numbers are, and this might be the perfect time to buy low on Shane Baez. Over his last 3 starts, he's seen his ERA jump from 2.46 to 5.02, thanks to allowing 16 earned runs in 12 and a half innings pitched. And while the recent results have been really bad, I'm still a believer in Shane Baez. And when you kind of look under the hood, I think there's a lot of encouraging underlying data. His FIP, xFIP Sierra, xERA, they all paint a prettier picture. They're all around like 3.3 to 4.3. Most of them on that low threes range. And then another thing I like to look at is expected batting average, expected slugging, and really expected WOBA. They're all significantly better than his actual numbers there. And so I think he's a really good pitcher who's had a rough, kind of a rough streak to the point where his numbers have, ballooned to a ugly spot. And I think you can buy low on a pitcher who I think is still really good.
I clearly am willing to buy low on Baez because I picked him for my two-start pitcher competition this week. So I'm with you on him being, a better pitcher than he's shown. And so the guy I have, which I'll get to in a second, is in my mind a buy low, but it's not a buy cheap. I think Baez is somebody that you can maybe buy cheap. Depending on who their manager is that currently has him on their roster. And this is when I would be very willing to buy low on and try to get onto my roster. So I'm with you. Where do you have Baez rest of season?
Let's see. Where do I have Baez rest of season? Probably ahead of Jeffrey Springs.
I think definitely should be ahead of Springs.
I have him SP 46.
Okay. That feels
around the Jack Flaherty, Sonny Gray, Max Meyer.
Yeah, that feels maybe like a touch high, but definitely in the right range, I think.
Yeah, I'm bullish on him, so I think he'll be good. Do you want to hear some of my potential trade targets?
People I'd never ask.
So I'll just send it to you like we always do. Would you flip Ben Rice for Shane Baez?
Yes.
Brendan Donovan?
Yes.
Isaac Paredes?
A couple home runs lately. So hard to get third baseman. I think I don't know. That would be really dependent on my need. If I needed pitcher versus, power hitting third baseman, that would be too roster dependent for me to answer.
Michael Bush?
I think I'd rather have Baez.
Tyler O'Neill, your boy.
I want nothing to do with Tyler O'Neill. That dude hasn't had a good game since opening day.
I think you said he might be the best hitter in baseball on opening day.
Well, he is on opening days.
On opening day, that's right. Yeah. What about your other boy, Jackson Holliday?
I'm buying in on Holliday, kind of taking a step forward. And especially if they get rid of Hyde and they get a manager who will play him every day no matter what, I would rather have Holliday. I think I don't think he's like an elite guy, but I think he's taking a step.
I can't wait till we do a show after they fire him. We'll just have to dedicate rounding the bases entirely to that.
I promise you, I don't care what time we're recording, I will break out the tequila for that episode.
Lourdes Gurriel.
Baez.
And then last one, Andy Pages. Andy Pages.
I like Baez more than I realized because I'm answering him from almost all these. I'll go Baez.
I kind of did a bunch of like sell highs, kind
Yeah.
of like to flip it like Pages, Bush, Brendan Donovan, Ben Rice, I think are all sell highs. Let's get to yours. That's all I got.
Cole Ragans, who, like I said, I do think is a buy low, even if he's not a buy cheap. He's obviously still a very good pitcher that people know is good and are not going to give him away for nothing. I think he is better than his numbers have been this year. Particularly the ERA and WHIP are pretty elevated. It's a 4.20 ERA, and his WHIP is 1.23. The ERA in particular, his expected ERA is 2.31. That's almost 2 runs better than what we've gotten. The strikeouts have been there, right? Those haven't gone anywhere. 65 in 40 and 2/3 innings. His strikeout rate, I think, it's 98th percentile on StatCast. It's 38%. It's awesome. The whiff rate's really high. Like, that's all great. His expected ERA is a full run lower than it was a year ago, and yet his actual ERA is a full run higher than it was a year ago. That's going to come down. There's been some bad luck kind of mixed in there in terms of, it's not a crazy number. The left on base rate has been a little down compared to last year. It's not like it's drastically changed, but it is a bit down. A lot of it is, I really just think of like bum luck. Like his FIP is 77 points lower than it was last year. I think this is just bad sequencing of when he's been allowing hits and home runs. And I expect him to win more games than he has so far. He's just won 2 of his first 8 starts. The walk rate is lower than it has ever been in his career. Like, this to me isn't just still a really good pitcher. This is a legitimate fantasy superstar ace who was pitched merely like a very good SP2. So again, you're not getting him for cheap, clearly, but I think you can buy lower than what I expect out of him the rest of the season. Do you think that that's crazy by me? Or I know sometimes I get some hate on the comments for the people I pick here, even when I think I've made a pretty good case. Do you think I've made the case for Ragans, or is he too big a name? And again, not saying cheap, just low.
I think if you can buy low, you should buy low, because I think everything you said is true. Also, 375 BABIP is not doing him any favors. That ties right into that bad luck you were talking about. I don't think you're, like you said, I don't think you're going to get him very cheap, because I think any decent fantasy manager is going to look at those underlying numbers. They might not look as deep as, as we do. But like you mentioned a couple of these already, but ERA 4.20. His FIP, xFIP, SIERA, and xERA are all 2.22, 2.25, 2.33, 2.31. They're all 2 runs lower, all 4 of them. And I think people are also going to like those strikeouts when they look at the 40 innings, 65 strikeouts. So you're not going to get him for cheap, like you said. But I think you can potentially buy low, depending, especially if someone has a decent amount of pitching depth and could use some hitting. Maybe you would have to pay up for a Cole Ragans, but not as much as you normally would. I'm going to try and scroll up our trade value chart to see if I can find.
While you're doing that, I'll just kind of throw out the idea of do you think that the average fantasy manager, and I'm not saying the experts, I'm saying the average fantasy manager values him as a top 5 starting pitcher rest of season? Because I have him 5th rest of season. I think Skubal, Skeens, Crochet, and Wheeler are the only 4 pitchers I would want ahead of him the rest of the way. Yamamoto's been good, but I kind of trust Ragans a bit more in terms of the elite strikeout numbers. You never know with the Dodgers too. There's no pitcher I want more than Ragans besides those kind of elite 4. So I don't feel like most people are valuing him as. I feel like people are valuing him as maybe a top 12 guy rest of the season. Not even maybe. Probably a top 12 guy. But the reason I'm including him is because I think that's even still too undervalued rest of season.
So you have him 5th. Who's ahead of him?
Skubal, Skeens, Crochet, and Wheeler, which is actually exactly what we have. Now, I don't know about that order, but those are the 4 names. And those are the 4 names in our consensus rest of season rankings that are ahead of him too. But I don't know that I'm anticipating that the average fantasy manager is viewing him a little bit lower than top 5.
Okay. I have him at 7, but I have Yamamoto and Strider ahead of him. But
Yamamoto, I could go either way. Strider, no chance for me. I need to see him back healthy before I'm going to do that. But Yamamoto, I think you could. Yamamoto's undervalued too. He's SP 11 in rest of season rankings. I think you can make the case for Yamamoto for sure, but I'd prefer Ragans.
So let's see. Let's find a trade match and see if you consider this. I wouldn't do that. I was gonna say, looking at the trade value chart, slightly below value is Rafael Devers, but third base is so tough. You can't give up a third baseman for a pitcher right now.
Yeah, unless you're in some kind of keeper format where you happen to have 2 good third basemen and can afford to move one. But otherwise, yeah. But in a vacuum, I'd rather have Ragans.
What about James Wood? Curious case of James Wood.
I do love me some James Wood. I would rather have Ragans, though. And I love Wood.
Wyatt Langford?
Ragans.
Here's an interesting one. What about, and I'll give my thoughts after this. What about Acuna, Ronald Acuna Jr.?
Oh, Ragans for sure.
See,
unquestionably.
It would be hard for me if I drafted Acuna and stashed him, and I see the light. I see him coming back. I don't want to flip him now.
Yeah, but he wasn't his elite superstar self his first year back. The last time he came off this injury, I wouldn't trade him for an SP2. But again, I'm talking about a top 5 starting pitcher in fantasy. I would rather have Ragans for sure than the question mark of Acuna.
I was going to ask another one, but it's actually your sell high, so I don't want to say the name and give away your sell high. And I also assume if you're selling high on him and buying low on Cole Ragans, you probably would do that trade.
100%. Let's just get into our sell highs now, and I'll just go first. Pete Crow-Armstrong. I would 100% sell him for Cole Ragans if I could. I think PCA is a good player. Obviously, we know he's a great defender. He's only 23, so kind of taking a step forward and breaking out totally makes sense. I mean, last year he had 10 home runs, 27 stolen bases. This year he already has 11 home runs and 13 stolen bases. His batting average is about 30 points higher than it was last year. His OPS is almost 850. Just clearly taking a step forward, and I do think that's legitimate. I don't think the power surge is legitimate. I don't think he's going to be, one of the 5 best power hitters in baseball by the end of the season. His expected slugging is 507. It's not that much lower than his slugging percentage. So, again, he's hitting the ball well. His average exit velocity is only 90.4 miles per hour. He's chasing a ton. First percentile chase rate, 42.9%, and he's not walking at all, 4.9%. He's just hitting the ball hard. I worry that's going to come down to earth a little, the level to which he's impacting the ball. And then when the power numbers go away, you're going to get something that's better than he was last year. I think he's going to get you 30 stolen bases, bat maybe 245, 250, maybe even higher than that if he continues a hot streak. But I just don't think he's not going to hit 35 home runs or whatever it is he's on pace for. And I think enough people will look at him and say, former first round pick, 23-year-old, he's breaking out. This is a great guy. I want to be invested in the rest of the way. Cubs are a fun team. I think you can sell high on him.
The one good thing is the stolen bases, though, so that even when he slows down at the plate, he's got 13 stolen bases.
He's a good player.
That's kind of a nice floor to have built.
Again, this is not a give him away for free type. Unlike my sell high last week, this is not a give him away for free type of a sell high. But I do think you can sell high because I think people will look at that and say, "Wow, he's double-digit home runs and steals already halfway through May, and a better batting average, and we know he's going to play every day because of the fielding." I think you can get a decent amount for him. And a billion% him for Cole Ragans. I would trade that in a heartbeat.
You think you could get Cole Ragans for him? Probably not, right?
No, I don't. But since you threw it out there on the last one, that's why I mentioned it. I don't think you could get rid. I would pair something with Pete Crow-Armstrong to get Ragans. So I would add to it to get him.
Yeah, that's fair. And yeah, I think you would have to find the right manager who has a ton of pitching and really needs speed, power, like Pete Crow-Armstrong. The other thing with him is he's hitting the ball in the air a ton, which is fun when he's hitting home runs. But as soon as he starts not hitting as many home runs, those are outs, and his average is just going to plummet.
Yeah, his ground ball rate last year was 42.5. This year it's only 29.5, and obviously the balls in the air have made up for that difference.
Almost 56% fly ball rate, which is kind of nuts.
Yeah. So he's my sell high. Who's your sell high? And by the way, you just stole this from me.
I did. I ran it right back. I knew I was running it right back. I actually mentioned Pete Crow-Armstrong 2 or 3 weeks ago as a sell high too, by the way. So we're just kind of trading. Although I think he was like a bonus sell high. But you mentioned Javier Baez last week as a sell high. I kind of pushed back on it a little bit, saying I don't know what you can get for him. But then he had an even better week, and now I think you probably could get something for him. He had two 3-run homers the other night, including a walk-off one in extra innings. And his numbers, I was actually one of the reasons I had this idea of like running it back with him as a sell high is because I'm in a group chat in one of my leagues with a Tigers fan who swears this is legit. He's passed his and I just like sent him a screenshot of his like dark blue StatCast page, and he was like, I don't care what the nerds say, like he passes the eye test for me, like he's back. And I'm like, all right, Like, I wish I had him to trade for you. But of course, he had already picked him up because he's a believer. I just think it's all smoke and mirrors. It's all going to come crashing down to earth. It's not sustainable. I don't think he's just suddenly turned back into a good hitter that we haven't seen in 5 or 6 years. I mean, like, part of it with looking at underlying numbers with him is that even when he was really good, his underlying numbers weren't that great. So it's not really like an apples to apples comparison, because when he was good, he was like kind of outperforming those bad metrics. But what we've seen over the last few years are those bad metrics, coming to fruition. And I don't think he's just going to be great for the entire year. I think this is just a hot streak. And I think if you can sell him for anything, I would, for sure.
Yeah. You want to just go like replay what I said last week? I mean, that's exactly, I feel the same. Nothing has changed, even though he had another hot week. And
the only thing that's changed is I think you can get more from him now.
Yeah, maybe. Your Tigers.
Because people are buying it.
If you're in a league with a Tigers fan who believes it's legit, then maybe.
Yeah.
By the way, just quickly, because possibly news coming out of this, there was a very bad collision between Byron, Buxton, and Carlos Correa in the game against the Orioles about a few minutes ago while we're recording this on Thursday. They Buxton coming in on a pop up, and they kind of like banged heads against each other. It looked pretty bad. Correa left the game. Buxton stayed in, but something to keep an eye on just because we talked about our news and notes in the last segment. So, and as Kelly Kirby points out on Twitter, at least these aren't two notoriously injury-prone players.
That's going to be my comment as well.
Yeah, obviously hoping everything's okay with there. Any collision is scary, but especially banging heads like that is particularly not fun to see. I want to let everybody know that if you're struggling with lineup decisions, our lineup assistant recommends optimal lineup suggestions to maximize your team's performance each day or week. Just sync your league for tailored guidance based on your roster and league settings. Download the Fantasy Baseball My Playbook app or visit fantasypros.com/MLB My Playbook to set your winning lineup today. Maher, let's go through our waivers picks here. I'll go first. Brooksley, actually in this Twins game as well. Couple home runs lately. Obviously his pedigree as a former very high pick. Was he the 4th pick overall? 6th pick? Something like that. He was in the top 6, whatever year it was that he came out out of college. Very, very available. 4% on Yahoo, 2% on ESPN, 23% on CBS. This is less like, the underlying data says he's about to like bust through in a big way, and more just he's only 24. He was the 8th pick in 2022 by the Twins.
I was going to say 8th pick, not even close.
Yeah, 6 was super off. I knew it was an even number.
This is why people don't think we like each other, by the way.
What do you mean think that? They observe it. They recognize that we don't like each other is the thing. Obviously like year 2, didn't have a full season last year. I'm just kind of banking on the pedigree. Like, I don't think he's going to be a superstar or anything, but this low of a roster percentage, if he is taking a step forward, especially at third base, we just talked about how hard it is to find somebody there. I'm interested in picking him up and seeing if he maybe takes a step forward here.
I don't have a ton of interest, to be honest with you. I know that he's a former first-round pick. He's still very young. Yeah.
I did not have a lot of good options this week for my favorite hitter. I actually really struggled to pick one, and the fact that he plays third base is carrying some weight for me.
Yeah, that certainly doesn't hurt. It's hard to. He's an interesting one because he was a former first-round pick, 8th overall, not 6th or 4th. But he kind of flew through the minor leagues like pretty quickly.
I think they expected that. He was like
right.
supposed to be a fast mover.
Well, that's what I mean in that, like, for some of these players, you can kind of look at like these full minor league seasons and kind of like see the progression of like, oh, like he earned his promotion here. He flew through so quickly, and it's like here's 4 games here, 25 games here, 31 games here. And then like in 2023, across multiple levels, 125 games, 16 home runs, 7 stolen bases, 275 average, like that's fine. But it's just like 5 games here, 25 games here, and it's kind of hard to see like the full progression. So like maybe we just haven't seen the best of Brooksley, and I'm just like looking down on him too much.
I would bet we have not seen the best of him, would be my guess. His hard hit rate is up like 20% compared to last year. It was like 24 last year. I think it's like 42 this year. So,
okay.
Again, he's very, very free to go pick up. Plays a position where you probably have a need unless you're one of a couple of teams, and is a former top prospect who could be taking a step forward. So I don't say it with a ton of conviction, but I say that I am interested and didn't have a lot of better options.
I mean, I don't want to talk you out of it. If you like Brooks Lee, you like Brooks Lee.
Plus, his name is Brooks, and as an Orioles fan, I gotta love anybody named Brooks.
That's fair. It is kind of, it gets into like kind of like the philosophy of, and I was going to talk about this with my pick too, kind of the philosophy of these like waiver wire pickups, because like sometimes we are picking up a Band-Aid and we just need someone to start. Other times it's like, this is a long-term play. Like if you can roster someone, like maybe start him here, but like stash him and like he has upside. Like there's kind of different philosophies for why you're picking someone up. It's not always just like, this guy's great, pick him up right now.
Yeah, that's a fair kind of distinction to make.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, try and be nicer. Go ahead. Do your pick.
All right. Thought you were going to tee me up a little bit more.
Well, I was just like waiting for you to jump in. This is like, you've hosted plenty of times. You can jump in now. We have a rhythm here.
All right. If you watched our first video, Rounding the Bases, I mentioned Dalton rushing was called up by the Dodgers, and kind of getting into the philosophy of picking up players on waivers. He is a top catching prospect, a top prospect for the Dodgers. It's not, as we're mentioned in the previous video, we're not sure he's going to play every day. He probably isn't going to play every day, but he has the kind of bat where he could be in the lineup not catching. Like he can play the outfield. He can play first base. He can catch. And so he could potentially like catch 2 or 3 days a week and then be in the outfield a couple days a week. They have some injuries. Teoscar Hernandez, Michael Conforto, Tommy Edman are all hurt. So there are some at-bats there. Freddie Freeman is just like getting like regular treatment on his ankle just to like be able to walk. And he's the kind of like high upside player, especially at the catcher position, where you pick him up now, you kind of see how it goes for a couple weeks. Because if he hits, he's gonna stay in the lineup. And if he can hit as well as he did in the minor leagues, it's a really good player to have at your catcher position, whether it's in a 1 catcher league or a 2 catcher league.
I already kind of shared my thoughts on rushing in the Round of the Bases episode, but I'm a little worried about playing time, but obviously super talented, great organization. We'll see what happens there. Probably worth a flyer, especially in a 2 quarterback. Jeez, I'm thinking about football. 2 catcher league. All right.
Dalton rushing is kind of like a nice quarterback name. I could see that being like or maybe more of like a running back name.
Well, rushing quarterbacks are the cheat code in fantasy football.
That's true.
That's probably why I was thinking of it. My favorite pitcher, Tomoyuki Sugano of the Orioles. He is pitching today while we were recording this, and had 2 perfect innings to start, and then gave up back-to-back home runs in the third. So, not that fun there. He's 38% rostered on Yahoo, 24% on ESPN, 68% on CBS, so a lot higher there, but still, available. And then obviously in the other ones, very available. I wanted to bring him up because early on in the season, he looked like pretty much unusable in fantasy because of the lack of strikeouts. Those strikeouts have been coming along. In the first 5 outings, he had 1, 4, 0, 3, and 1 strikeouts. That's 9 total. His last 3 starts prior to today, which is still going on, 8 strikeouts in 5 innings, 4 strikeouts in 6 innings, 5 strikeouts in 7 1/3 innings. That's 17 strikeouts in 19 1/3 innings. In those 3 starts, he only gave up 3 combined earned runs. So it was really good the last 3 starts. One of those starts was against the Yankees, too. He is not a pitcher who walks anybody. His walk rate is 92nd percentile. It's just 4.4%. His ERA is under 3, again, prior to today. His expected ERA is higher, so I do expect some regression on the ERA front. But if he starts striking out people more than he has been and is something close to a strikeout per inning, this is going to be a capable fantasy starting pitcher for your roster. I don't know if the strikeouts are going to continue or not. We pretty consistently don't have pitchers that we love recommending in this segment. But if I'm looking at a guy who already has a low ERA, which again I do think will go in the other direction, and he's starting to strike out more as he's learning Major League Baseball, maybe. Obviously this is his first season, on this side of the ocean. I am interested in that. So, what do you think about Sugano?
I have very mixed feelings on Sugano for the reasons you mentioned, the strikeout numbers. That's kind of who he was in Japan too. In 2024, 156 innings, only 111 strikeouts, and pretty consistently well below a strikeout per inning, unless you go back to like 2020 when he struck out 131 and 137 innings. But that's just kind of not his game. He's just kind of a control pitch to contact pitcher. I think that's also why some of his expected numbers are much worse. Like the FIP, xFIP, SIERA, xERA are all in the 4s. I think as long as his strikeout numbers are down and he's more of like a pitch to contact kind of guy, those expected numbers are always going to be pretty like significantly worse, just because they do value strikeouts and they value like, because the thought there is that the more batters you strike out, the less opportunity there is for bad luck. That's kind of the thinking there. And so the more opportunity the ball goes into the field, the more likely it is you're going to have some bad luck, in the grand scheme of things, the law of large numbers. So I do wonder about the upside there, but it's also hard to argue with guys at 2.72 ERA. I feel like he's probably going to be a matchup based guy. Like if you can kind of stash him and start him when you want to, and sit him against the Dodgers and start him against the Royals and the Marlins and the White Sox of the world, I think that would be fine. I don't think he's someone I want to really like add to my team and have him as someone I'm starting every week for every matchup, because I think it can kind of blow up at certain times.
One of the players who hit a home run for the Twins today is somebody named Deshaun Kiersey Jr., who I'm going to be honest, I have never heard of before.
I heard of him this morning because I was placing bets, and I was on the Betting Pros app looking at prop bets, and I was gonna I look at like expected value. We don't have to get into a betting conversation, but we look at expected value, and he had really good expected value on the under on his hits prop, and I'm very happy I didn't take it. Because apparently you don't run
Sugano. My interest in Sugano is entirely predicated on him striking out more batters lately, and the idea of that maybe continuing. If that does not continue, then I don't think he'll be worthwhile. Who's your pitcher?
So my pitcher is similarly someone I'm not like incredibly confident in long term, but it's someone who's been pitching well lately, and it's Hunter Dobbins. The other thing, he's a pitcher for the Red Sox. The other thing there is that he has a 2-star pitcher this week. I love targeting 2-star pitchers. If I'm going to pick up a pitcher on waivers, I love the opportunity to kind of start them twice. He is home against the Mets and then home against the Orioles. So like not incredible matchups, but not like obviously like the Mets are pretty good right now. But he has a 3.9 ERA. Expected numbers are all pretty a little bit lower than that. The Red Sox don't have a lot going great for them right now, but Hunter Dobbins looks like a cromulent pitcher. That's a Simpsons reference for you, Worm. 27 2/3 innings, 23 strikeouts, so a little bit less than a strikeout per inning. Expected numbers, like I said, ERA is 3.9. Expected numbers are all about a half a run lower than that, in that ballpark. Strikeout percentage is 19.3. Swing percentage is 11.8. And like I said, he's not going to like light the world on fire, but he just seems like a serviceable pitcher right now that I'm willing to stream in the short term. And the bonus name that I included is Brayan, another Red Sox pitcher. Not that I want to just like target the Red Sox pitching staff, because there are certainly better ways to spend your time than targeting the Red Sox pitching staff. But he's recently come back after starting the season on the IL and looks pretty good. He looks pretty sharp. He's gotten some bad luck. Although if you look at his expected numbers, they would argue he's gotten some good luck. But just from like watching him at the eye test, his stuff looks sharp, despite what the strikeout numbers are for him. And he's someone that I think he's pretty widely available. And like you said, it's kind of hard to pick names in this segment sometimes. But I think he's someone who has some upside the rest of the season. So like similar to Sugano, I don't know that I would want to pick him up and start him every week right away. But I do want to pick him up and stash him if I can. He pitches at home against the Orioles this week. So two pitchers I think that could like fill out the back end of your staff if you need kind of warm bodies and innings there.
I'm up against it on time, so go ahead and quickly run through these deep league targets.
All right, so deep league targets: Eric Fetty, Jamison Tyone. Some of these names we mentioned in recent weeks, but they're still available, still contributing. So Eric Fetty, Jamison Tyone, Jake Myers, Miguel Andujar, someone I have in a deep league that I keep kind of like trying to get rid of, and I keep realizing he's the best option that I have, and he's doing fine. Third base and outfield eligible. So if you're in a deep league and need a warm body, Miguel Andujar has been valuable for me. Max Kepler, Ryan McMahon, who we've talked about a few times on the show. We have a few shares. He's had an awful season, but the last like week and a half or so, he's been really hot. So if you can pick him back up, he's a third baseman who's contributing right now. JT Ginn is coming off the IL. He has a 2-start week, but one of them is against the Phillies, so I'm not sure if you want to really get into bed with that. But someone that I do like that has some good stuff. If you can kind of only start him for 1 start or just stash him, I like JT Ginn. Walker Buehler is coming off the IL. Again, not something I want to not someone I want to target in a standard league, but in a deeper league, Walker Buehler is an arm for you. And then Ben Brown has a 2-start week this week at the Marlins and then at the Reds.
All right, we'll go ahead and wrap up this segment there. Be sure to stick around later in the weekend for our pitching segment where we talk about some streamers and our 2-start pitcher competition. And if you missed it, be sure to check out our Rounding the Bases segment as well. For Maher, I'm Ryan Wormeli. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.